Commander Ji-ho Kim stood on the observation deck of the defense station, watching the stars above New Prosperity. His reflection stared back at him from the glass, showing a man who had seen too many battles. Behind him, the communication officer called out another update about the incoming threat. The hive swarm was coming. Everyone in the galaxy knew what that meant. 300 light-years away on the Galactic Council observation station, Ambassador Velthar watched the same system through advanced sensors, the crystalline being shifted colors from blue to worried purple as it studied the data. Next to Velthar, War Master Krieg clicked his claws against the console. "The humans will run," Krieg said in his rumbling voice. "Every species runs from the swarm. They have no choice." Velthar's body flickered. "Should we warn them? Give them more time to evacuate?" "We observe only," another council member said. "That is the protocol. We must see how this young species handles real danger." The humans had joined the galactic community only 50 years ago. In that short time, they had built 12 colony worlds and a fleet that made older species nervous. They grew too fast, learned too quickly, and asked too many questions about weapons that most civilizations had banned centuries ago. Now the swarm would test them. The hive had consumed 40 star systems, eating every living thing and moving on like locusts. Their ships were alive, grown from organic matter. Their soldiers numbered in the millions. They did not negotiate. They did not stop. Back on New Prosperity, Ji-ho turned to face his command staff. Dr. Hae-won Park stood near the tactical display, her medical insignia bright against her uniform. She had been a military surgeon before becoming the colony's chief medical officer. She knew what war looked like. "Orders, Commander?" asked Captain Min-ho, the youngest officer in the room. Ji-ho pressed a button on his command chair. "Protocol Wildfire, full implementation." The room went silent for a moment. Then everyone moved at once. On the council station, Velthar noticed something strange. "They are not evacuating. Why are they not loading their civilian transports?" Krieg leaned forward, studying the human activity. Ships were moving, but not away from the planet. They were moving around it, creating patterns that made no sense for an evacuation. "What are they doing?" Velthar asked. No one had an answer. Ji-ho walked through the underground command center below New Prosperity's capital city. Construction crews were working around the clock, not building defenses, but something else. Hae-won joined him as he inspected the work. "The civilians are asking questions," she said. "They want to know why we're not leaving." "And what did you tell them?" "The truth. That we're staying. That we're going to fight." Ji-ho nodded. "The council thinks we'll follow standard procedure. Evacuate, abandon the colony, retreat to Earth. That's what every other species does." "But we're not every other species," Hae-won said. "No, we're not." Above them, the city was changing. Buildings that had housed families and shops were being modified. Every street, every structure, every park was being prepared for something the galaxy had not seen in thousands of years. On the council station, more observers arrived. Species from across the galaxy wanted to watch humanity face the swarm. Some hoped the humans would survive. Others wanted to see them humbled. The swarm was nature's way of teaching young species their place in the universe. War Master Krieg studied the human communications they had intercepted. One message confused him more than the others. A human officer had sent it to all military units. "Remember Seoul. Remember Berlin. Remember Stalingrad. Make them remember us." "What does this mean?" Krieg asked Velthar. "I do not know. Human history is still being translated." A younger council member, a floating jellyfish-like being named Tesh, spoke up. "I have studied human history. Those are names of cities on their home world, cities that were destroyed in their wars." "Why would they remember destroyed cities?" Velthar asked. "Because they won those wars," Tesh said quietly. Humans remember their victories and their losses the same way. They learn from both. Krieg's scales rippled with concern. That is an old way of thinking. My species abandoned that philosophy 10,000 years ago. Why? Tesh asked. Because species that think that way do not know how to stop fighting. War becomes their purpose. On New Prosperity, Jiho held a final meeting with his officers. On the display behind him, projections showed the swarm fleet's approach. 50 bioships, each carrying thousands of soldiers. The human fleet had 5 ships. They outnumber us 10-1, Captain Minho said. In ships alone. Numbers are not everything, Jiho replied. The swarm thinks war is about territory, about who controls what space. They're wrong. Then what is war about? Asked Lieutenant Jae Sung, another young officer. Jiho smiled, but it was not a happy expression. War is about sending a message, about making sure the enemy remembers what happened here. We're not trying to win a battle. We're trying to win every battle that comes after this one. Haewon understood. You want to make an example of them. Yes, not just for the swarm, for everyone watching. Jiho pointed up, towards space where he knew the council station waited. They think they know what humans are. They think we're just another species. After this, they'll know different. The command center filled with a low alarm. The swarm had entered the system. On the council station, every observer turned their attention to the displays. The swarm fleet moved like a living thing, ships coordinating without visible communication. They had done this before. They knew they would win. The human fleet moved to intercept, and Velthar felt something like sorrow. 5 small ships against 50 larger ones. The math was simple. The result was certain. But then the humans did something unexpected. They split up. Why are they dividing their forces? Krieg asked. That makes no tactical sense. The human ships scattered in different directions, each one broadcasting different signals. The swarm fleet hesitated, confused about which target to pursue. They are not trying to fight, Tesh observed. They are trying to confuse. That will not save them, Krieg said. The swarm will divide and hunt each ship. It will take longer, but the result is the same. On New Prosperity, Jiho watched the tactical display with satisfaction. Good. Make them spread out. Make them commit. Sir, they're taking the bait, Minho reported. The swarm is splitting into 5 groups. Perfect. Begin Phase 2. Haewon activated her medical stations across the planet. Not evacuation centers, field hospitals, positioned near combat zones that did not exist yet. In orbit, the human ships led the swarm groups on a chase through the system. They were not running away. They were leading the enemy exactly where they wanted them to go. Velthar watched in growing confusion. This is not standard military doctrine. What strategy is this? Krieg's claws tightened on his armrest. His people had fought this way once. Long ago, before they learned to be civilized. He recognized what he was seeing. This is not a defense, he said slowly. This is a trap. The entire system is a trap. For what purpose? Velthar asked. Krieg's voice was quiet. To teach the galaxy to fear them. On New Prosperity, Jiho gave the final order of the day. All units, prepare for enemy landing. When they come down to our world, show them what humans learned in 10,000 years of war. Show them why Earth is covered in monuments to battles. Show them what we remember. The swarm approached, confident in their numbers, certain of their victory. They did not know they were descending into a nightmare that would echo across the galaxy for generations. The first swarm bioships entered New Prosperity's atmosphere like falling stars. Each ship was the size of a building. Their organic hulls pulsing with alien life. Inside each one, thousands of soldier drones waited to flood onto the surface and begin feeding. Squadron leader Dongwoo Lee watched them descend from his fighter cockpit. His small craft was hidden in the shadow of one of New Prosperity's moons, waiting. Behind him, 20 more fighters waited in the same darkness. "Remember," Dongwoo spoke into his communication system, his voice calm. "We are not trying to kill their ships. We are trying to hurt them." On the Council observation station, Velthar did not understand. Why would they want to hurt the ships instead of destroying them? War Master Krieg watched the tactical display with growing unease. He understood. His species had used this strategy long ago. Wounded ships slow down healthy ones. They require resources to heal. They spread fear among the fleet. The humans are not fighting to win this battle. They are fighting to make the swarm suffer. The swarm ships landed in 3 locations across New Prosperity: the capital city, the farming region, and the manufacturing sector. Standard invasion pattern: take the food, take the industry, take the command center. The cargo doors opened and soldier drones poured out by the thousands. Each drone was the size of a large dog, covered in armor plates, with claws designed to rip through metal. They moved as one mind, directed by the swarm consciousness that connected them all. They found empty streets. Colonel Young-Sik Han watched from his underground command post as the swarm entered the capital. He had fought in the Mars Rebellion 20 years ago. He had seen urban combat. He knew how to turn a city into a killing ground. "Let them get comfortable," he said to his officers. "Let them think we ran away." The swarm drones spread through the city, searching for humans to consume. They entered buildings and found furniture, clothing, and food still on tables, as if the humans had just disappeared. Then the music started. Speakers hidden throughout the city began playing human songs. Loud, aggressive music that the swarm mind found irritating. The drones tried to destroy the speakers, but for every one they broke, 2 more activated. "Phase 1 complete," Young-Sik reported. "They're frustrated and spreading out. Begin Phase 2. In space, Dongwoo led his fighters out of hiding. They approached the wounded swarm bioships that were trying to return to orbit. His targeting system locked onto the ship's propulsion organs. "Light them up," he ordered. The fighters struck fast, damaging but not destroying. Each wounded ship began trailing biological fluid, their distress signals filling the communication channels. The other swarm ships had to slow down to help them, exactly as the humans planned. "Enemy fleet cohesion down to 40%, reported Naval Intelligence Officer Soo-Jin Choi from her station on the orbital defense platform. She was already preparing the next phase of the human strategy. Soo-Jin activated her communication array, broadcasting to every species in the region. Not a call for help, a show. "This is New Prosperity Defense Command to all observers. What you are about to witness is standard human military doctrine. We recommend you pay attention." On the council station, Velthar's crystalline form shifted to orange with alarm. "They are broadcasting their battle? Why?" "Because they want everyone to see what happens when you attack humanity," Krieg said. "They are not defending. They are teaching." On the surface, the swarm drones continued searching the capital city. They entered what appeared to be a school, finding small desks and children's drawings still on the walls. The swarm mind processed this as a breeding area for young humans. Then the floor exploded. Colonel Young-Sik had placed explosives throughout the entire city. Not random bombs, but carefully planned traps. When the swarm concentrated in certain areas, entire buildings collapsed on them. Streets erupted in flames. Parks became craters. The swarm mind experienced something it had never felt before in its 1,000-year existence. Confusion mixed with something that almost felt like fear. In the farming region, the swarm found fields of crops ready for harvest. The drones began consuming the plants, preparing to convert the organic matter into more bioships. This was their purpose. This was what they did. Captain Su Young Chen, leader of the Agricultural Defense Unit, watched from 2 kilometers away. She pressed a button on her remote device. The fields erupted in chemical fire, not regular fire that burned out quickly, but a sticky, spreading flame that attached to the swarm drone's armor plating. The chemicals had been mixed into the soil weeks ago. The crops the swarm was eating were poison. Thousands of drones writhed and died in the burning fields. Sujin broadcast every moment to the watching galaxy. Her voice was professional, almost cheerful. The swarm has now learned lesson 1. Humans prepare their battlefields in advance. Every field, every building, every street on New Prosperity has been converted into a weapon. The planet itself rejects the swarm. On the council station, High Curator Mesthra, a being made of pure energy and philosophy, spoke for the first time. "This is not warfare. This is cruelty." "No," Krieg corrected, his voice troubled. "This is what warfare looks like when you are good at it. When you have practiced it for so long that you know exactly how to maximize enemy suffering while minimizing your own losses." In the manufacturing sector, the swarm found automated factories still running. The machines were producing something, but the swarm mind could not identify what. The drones entered the factories to investigate. Major Kyung-Soo Park, commander of the Industrial Sector Defense, activated the machines remotely. The factories had been reprogrammed to produce one thing: smaller drones designed by humans to fight swarm drones. Thousands of small robotic units poured out of the assembly lines, each one equipped with cutting tools and acid sprayers. They were not as strong as swarm drones, but they were fast and fearless. Most importantly, they were expendable. The battle inside the factories was chaos. The swarm drones were designed to fight soft biological targets, not mechanical opponents that felt no pain and never stopped attacking. Dongwu and his fighters continued their harassment of the swarm fleet in orbit. They never stayed in one place long enough for the bioships to target effectively. They struck and disappeared, struck and disappeared. "This is Ghost Leader to all pilots," Dongwu announced, his voice carrying a strange joy. "I count 15 swarm ships with critical damage, 23 with moderate damage. They are slower, bleeding, and confused. Recommend we keep doing exactly what we're doing." His pilots laughed on the communication channel. They were losing some fighters, but the exchange rate was heavily in humanity's favor, and more importantly, every damaged swarm ship was a message. On the surface, Colonel Youngsik initiated Phase 3. The underground shelters where the human civilians were hiding began playing recorded messages throughout the empty city. Human voices, human laughter, human songs. The swarm mind tried to process this. The prey was hiding but taunting. The prey was weak but somehow winning. This did not match any pattern in the swarm's collective memory. Sujin continued her broadcast. "The swarm has operated for over 1,000 years using one simple strategy: overwhelming numbers. They have never encountered a species that refused to be overwhelmed. They are learning now that numbers mean nothing when every step forward leads to death." A new swarm wave arrived from orbit. Reinforcements. 50,000 fresh drones descended on the capital city. Youngsik watched them land. "Good. More witnesses. Activate the primary charges." What happened next would be talked about across the galaxy for generations. The entire central sector of the capital city exploded simultaneously, not building by building, but all at once. 50,000 swarm drones were killed in a single coordinated detonation that could be seen from orbit. Velthar's crystalline form turned white with shock. They destroyed their own capital city, the cultural center of their colony. They destroyed it themselves. "Because it was full of the enemy," Krieg said quietly. "They sacrificed territory to eliminate forces. My ancestors did this too. We called it the Scorched World Doctrine. Give the enemy nothing. Not land, not resources, not hope." Young Sik's voice came through on Sujin's broadcast feed. She played it for the galaxy to hear. "This is Colonel Young Sik Han to the Swarm Mind. We know you are a collective consciousness. We know you share memories across your species. Good. Remember this. Remember that humans don't fight for buildings or land. We fight to win, and we will burn our own cities to ash before we let you have them. Every planet you attack will be the same. No matter how many drones you send, we will make it cost more than you can afford." The swarm fleet in orbit began to pull back, not retreating completely but reorganizing. The swarm mind was thinking, calculating, trying to understand these strange creatures who fought like nothing it had ever encountered. On the council station, dozens of species watched in silence. Some were horrified. Some were impressed. All were afraid. Velthar turned to Krieg. "How do we stop this?" "Stop what?" Krieg asked. "Stop the swarm or stop the humans?" "Both. Either. This is too destructive." Krieg's ancient eyes stared at the display. "You cannot stop warriors who are willing to sacrifice everything. My species learned that the hard way. The humans are showing the galaxy something we had forgotten, that survival means being willing to do terrible things, and humans have been doing terrible things to each other for their entire history." On New Prosperity, Jiho received reports from all sectors. The first wave of swarm forces was broken. The enemy was confused, hurt, and beginning to understand they had made a mistake. "Status report?" he asked Haywan. "Human casualties minimal. We haven't lost a single civilian. Military losses, 12 fighters, 36 soldiers. Enemy losses, estimated 70,000 drones, 15 ships." Jiho nodded. "Not a bad exchange rate. Prepare for their counterattack. They'll come harder now." "Are you sure they'll come back?" Haywan asked. "After this, maybe they'll leave." Jiho smiled grimly. "No. They're going to try to make an example of us, to show the galaxy that no species refuses the swarm. That's fine. Let them come. We have more surprises waiting." The swarm fleet regrouped in orbit, and the galaxy watched and waited for the next phase of a war that was changing everything they thought they knew about humanity. The Council observation station had become crowded. Representatives from 40 different species now filled the viewing chambers, all watching the humans fight the swarm. Some had come out of curiosity. Others came out of fear. All of them stayed because they could not look away. Ambassador Velthar had not changed color in 3 hours, remaining a deep purple that indicated profound disturbance. The crystalline being's form flickered as it processed what it had witnessed. "This cannot be how warfare is conducted," Velthar said to no one in particular. "There must be rules. There must be limits." War Master Krieg sat in his observation chair, his reptilian face unreadable, but his claws tapped rhythmically on the armrest, a sign his species showed when deeply troubled. "There are no rules in war," Krieg said. "Only winners and losers. The humans understand this." High Curator Mesthra, the energy being who represented the Etherian civilization, floated closer to the main display. The Etherians had not fought a war in 15,000 years. They had evolved beyond violence, or so they believed. "But the destruction," Mesthra said, its voice like wind chimes. "They destroyed their own city. They poisoned their own farmland. They sacrifice everything. Because they know it can be rebuilt," Krieg explained. "Buildings can be replaced. Land can be healed. But reputation, fear, respect, these things are permanent. The humans are not fighting for new prosperity. They are fighting for every future battle they hope to avoid." A younger council member, Ambassador Jun Ki, from a human diplomatic mission, entered the observation room. He was one of only 3 humans allowed on the station. The council had requested his presence to help them understand what they were seeing. Jun Ki was not military. He was a poet before becoming a diplomat, someone who had spent his life studying words and culture, not weapons. But he had served his time in the Earth Defense Force, as all humans did. He knew what war meant to his people. "You asked to speak with me," Junki said, his voice quiet and respectful. Velthar turned to face him. "Yes, we need you to explain what we are witnessing. Your military's tactics are unlike anything in our records." Junki moved to the observation window, looking at the distant planet where his people fought and died. "What specifically confuses you?" "Everything," Mesthra said. "Why do your soldiers sing while placing explosives? Why do they broadcast their battles? Why do they destroy their own infrastructure? Why do they seem to enjoy the suffering they inflict?" Junki was quiet for a long moment. Then he began to speak. 10,000 years ago, my ancestors lived in caves and fought with stones. We spent the next 10,000 years fighting each other, human against human, tribe against tribe, nation against nation. We have fought over land, resources, beliefs, pride, and sometimes for no good reason at all. He pulled up a display showing Earth's history, images of ancient battles, medieval wars, modern conflicts. We bombed our own cities. We starved our own people during sieges. We developed weapons so terrible that we banned ourselves from using them. Every terrible thing you see us do to the swarm, we first did to ourselves. Krieg leaned forward. "But you stopped. You unified your world. You joined the galactic community. We thought you had evolved beyond this." "We did evolve," Junki said. "But not beyond it, past it. We learned every lesson about war the hard way. We paid for each lesson with blood and tears and generations of suffering. And now, we remember all of it." "Why would you want to remember?" Velthar asked. "Because forgetting would mean learning those lessons again," Junki answered. "Every human child studies military history, not to glorify war, but to understand its cost. We remember the victories and the defeats with equal weight. We remember what we did and what was done to us." On the main display, the battle for new prosperity continued. The swarm had sent another wave, this time trying to overwhelm the human defenses with pure numbers. 300,000 drones descended on the planet. The humans met them with coordinated artillery fire, drone swarms, and soldiers who fought with a precision that came from centuries of refined doctrine. But it was not the tactics that disturbed the council, it was the attitude. Human soldiers were laughing. "Explain that," Mesthra demanded, pointing at an intercepted communication. "Why do they laugh while killing?" Junki listened to the recording. A human squad had just eliminated a group of swarm drones using a trap they had set up. Their conversation was full of jokes and casual banter. "Because they trust each other," Junki said. "Because they have trained together, fought together, and they know they will survive together. The laughter is not cruelty, it is confidence." "It sounds like cruelty," Velthar insisted. "Maybe," Junki admitted, "but consider this. These soldiers volunteered to stay on New Prosperity when they could have evacuated. They chose to fight against impossible odds. The laughter is how they deal with fear. My people have always used humor to face death." Krieg pulled up another file, this one showing the broadcast that Sujin Choi was sending across the galaxy. Her narration of the battle was professional but had an edge to it, almost like she was teaching a lesson. "And this?" Krieg asked. "Why broadcast your warfare? Most species consider their military tactics to be secrets." "Because we want you to see," Junki said simply. "We want the galaxy to understand what happens when you attack humanity. This is not a secret. This is a warning." The viewing room fell silent. Several council members shifted uncomfortably. A new figure entered the room. Elder scientist Rin Su, a human xenobiologist who had been studying the swarm. She was old, her hair white, her movements slow. But her mind was sharp. "I have discovered something about the swarm," Rin Su announced. "Something that changes what we understand about this battle." Everyone turned to listen. "The swarm mind is a collective consciousness," Rinsu explained. Every drone, every ship, every member of their species shares the same memory. When one drone dies, the entire species experiences that death. When one ship is hurt, they all feel the pain. Velthar's form shifted to a bright red. Then the humans are not just killing swarm soldiers, they are traumatizing an entire species. Yes, Rinsu said. Every trap, every explosion, every burned field is being recorded in the collective memory of the swarm. They will remember this battle for generations, maybe forever. Krieg stood up from his chair, his large form imposing. This is forbidden. The psychological warfare doctrines were banned by the Council 8,000 years ago. To deliberately cause species-wide trauma is considered a war crime. By your laws, Junki said quietly. Not by ours. We never signed that treaty. We were not part of the galactic community when those laws were made. You are part of it now, Velthar said. You must follow our rules. Even when those rules would get us killed? Junki asked. The swarm does not follow your rules. They consume entire worlds. They have killed billions. But we are the criminals because we fight back effectively? The argument was interrupted by an alert from the tactical display. The swarm was retreating. All remaining ships were pulling back from New Prosperity, leaving their ground forces behind to die. The room erupted in conversation. The swarm never retreated. In their 1,000-year history, they had never abandoned a target. What is happening? Mesthra asked. War Master Krieg studied the data, his ancient mind recognizing the pattern. They are afraid. For the first time in their existence, the swarm mind is experiencing fear. Not tactical concern, not calculation of losses, true fear. On the planet's surface, Colonel Young-Sik Han watched the swarm ships flee. He opened a communication to all human forces. Do not pursue. Let them go. Let them carry the message back to their breeding worlds. Let them remember. Jiho Kim, listening from the command center, nodded in approval. Phase 4 complete. The example has been set. Haewon Park stood next to him, her medical reports showing that human casualties remained remarkably low. What happens now? Now the galaxy decides what to do about us, Jiho said. On the council station, that decision was already being debated. Some species argued that humans should be sanctioned for their brutal tactics. Others argued that humans had only defended themselves and should be praised for their effectiveness. War Master Krieg listened to all the arguments, then raised his claw for silence. His voice carried the weight of centuries. I have seen this before. My own species fought like the humans once, long ago. We were good at war. Too good. We won every battle, destroyed every enemy, and became so feared that we were alone in the galaxy. He paused, letting that sink in. We gave up that way of war because we realized something. Being the best at killing meant being the most alone. We chose civilization over victory. We chose peace over dominance. Are you saying the humans are making a mistake? Velthar asked. No, Krieg said. I am saying they are making a choice. They are choosing to be warriors in a galaxy of civilians. They are choosing to be feared instead of loved. And I am saying that we need them. The room went silent. Need them? Mesthra asked. How could we need such violence? Krieg gestured to the display showing the retreating swarm. Because they can do what we cannot. We have evolved beyond warfare. But the galaxy has not evolved beyond danger. The swarm still exists. Pirates still raid. Threats still emerge. We need someone who remembers how to fight. Junki spoke up. My people do not want to be your warriors. We want to be your partners. But we will not apologize for being good at survival. Elder scientist Rinsu added her thoughts. In human history, there is a saying, if you want peace, prepare for war. My people learned that lesson over and over. We are prepared. The question is whether the galaxy can accept that preparation. The debate continued for hours, but the conclusion was inevitable. The Council voted to invite human representatives to discuss a new role in galactic security, not as conquerors, but as defenders, not as aggressors, but as the species who would do what others could not. As the meeting ended, Velthar approached Junki privately. "I am afraid of your people," Velthar admitted. "I know," Junki said. "Most species are, but ask yourself, are you more afraid of us or of what we fight?" Velthar could not answer. On New Prosperity, the humans began to rebuild their destroyed city, but they left monuments in the ruins, markers showing what had happened there. Future generations would remember. The galaxy would remember. And most importantly, the swarm would remember. Admiral Tae-Jin Yoon stood on the bridge of the warship Indomitable, watching the stars pass by as his fleet traveled through space. Behind his ship, 35 other human vessels followed in formation. They were not heading home. They were heading deeper into unknown space, following the path the swarm had taken in retreat. The galactic community had sent messages, official communications demanding that humanity cease their pursuit. The war was over. New Prosperity was safe. The humans should return and accept their victory. Tae-Jin deleted each message without reading them completely. He had his orders from Earth Command, and those orders were clear. Finish what the swarm started. On the Council Observation Station, emergency meetings were being held around the clock. Ambassador Velthar had turned a color that indicated extreme stress, somewhere between red and purple. "They are violating every standard of galactic warfare," Velthar said to the assembled council. The swarm retreated. The conflict ended. Pursuing a defeated enemy into their home territory is forbidden. War Master Krieg sat in his chair, unusually quiet. He had been studying human military history for the past 3 weeks. What he had learned troubled him deeply. "The humans have a military principle," Krieg said slowly. "They call it total war. It means that once a conflict begins, it is not over until the enemy is completely defeated, not pushed back, not discouraged, defeated." "But the swarm is defeated," a council member protested. "They fled. They lost." "No," Krieg said. "They retreated to recover. The humans know the difference. If the swarm is allowed to rebuild, they will attack again. Maybe not New Prosperity, but somewhere. The humans are preventing future wars by finishing this one." On the Indomitable, xenobiologist Yoon-hee Song worked in her laboratory, studying the samples they had collected from destroyed swarm bioships. What she had discovered changed everything. She called Admiral Tae-Jin to her lab. "Sir, you need to see this," Yoon-hee said, pulling up her research data. "I have been analyzing the swarm's biological structure, specifically their neural network." "In simple terms, Doctor," Tae-Jin said. He was a military man, not a scientist. "The swarm mind shares all memories across their entire species. Every drone, every ship, every member is connected. But it is more than just communication. It is permanent memory storage. When we killed those drones on New Prosperity, we did not just remove soldiers from the battle. We traumatized their entire species." Tae-Jin considered this. "So they remember everything we did to them?" "Yes. And more importantly, they cannot forget. Ever. The memory of burning fields, exploding cities, and overwhelming defeat is now part of their species' consciousness. Forever." A slow smile crossed Tae-Jin's face. "So we are not just fighting them. We are teaching them." "Exactly," Yoon-hee confirmed. "Every action we take is being recorded in their collective memory. We can weaponize that." Communications Officer Bo-Ra Lim had been broadcasting the human fleet's journey across all galactic channels. Her narration had become famous throughout the galaxy. Some species watched in horror. Others watched in fascination. All watched. "This is Officer Bo-Ra Lim reporting from the Human Pursuit Fleet," she spoke into her recorder. Today marks day 23 of our mission. We have tracked the swarm through 5 star systems. We have not attacked them yet. We are simply following, watching, letting them know we are coming. On the council station, Velthar listened to Bora's broadcast. Why do they announce their actions? Why give the swarm time to prepare defenses? Because they want the swarm to be afraid, Krieg answered. Fear is a weapon. The humans learned this long ago. The human fleet reached the first swarm-breeding world, a planet designated as Ossicor 7. It was a massive world covered in organic structures where the swarm grew their ships and raised new drones. Billions of swarm members lived there. Admiral Tae-jin gave an order that shocked his own officers. Do not fire on the planet. I repeat, do not engage. Instead, prepare the landing teams. Sir, his first officer asked, landing teams? We are not invading? No, we are leaving a message. The human ships deployed small craft that landed on Ossicor 7's surface. The swarm did not attack them, confused about what was happening. Soldiers in protective suits exited the craft and began construction. They were building monuments, graves, thousands of them. Each grave marker bore the name of a human who had died in the defense of new prosperity. Civilians and soldiers, adults and children. Every name carved into stone brought from Earth. The swarm mind watched through its drones, trying to understand. Why were the humans burying their dead on a swarm world? Bora Lim explained in her broadcast. These graves are a reminder. Each one represents a life the swarm tried to take. Each one is a promise that humanity remembers. We are not here to exterminate the swarm. We are here to make sure they never forget what they did. The construction took 3 days. When it was complete, the humans left without firing a single shot. But the graves remained, stone markers that would last for thousands of years. On the council station, Mesthra spoke with something like awe in its voice. They are not destroying. They are marking. This is not conquest. This is memory warfare. Krieg nodded. They are using the swarm's collective consciousness against them. Every time a swarm member looks at those graves, the entire species will remember the defeat at New Prosperity. It is psychological warfare on a scale we have never seen. The human fleet continued to the next swarm world, and the next. At each location, they landed and built more monuments, more graves, more reminders. The swarm mind, experiencing this for the first time in its existence, did something unprecedented. It sent a communication to the human fleet. Cease your actions. The conflict has ended. We will not attack human territories again. Admiral Tae-jin read the message on his bridge. His officers waited for his response. Send this reply, Tae-jin said. The conflict ends when we decide it ends. We are not here for territory. We are not here for resources. We are here to make sure you understand the cost of attacking humanity. The swarm sent another message. What do you want from us? Tae-jin's response was simple. We want you to remember. We want every member of your species, for every generation to come, to carry the memory of what happened when you attacked New Prosperity. We want future swarm generations to look at the stars and know that humanity does not forgive. On the council station, the debate about human actions had reached a breaking point. Some species demanded military intervention to stop the humans. Others argued that the humans were justified in their pursuit. Ambassador Jun Ki was called before the council again to explain his people's actions. Your fleet is terrorizing an entire species, Velthar accused. They have surrendered. They have promised to never attack you again. Why do you continue? Junki pulled up a display showing human history. 400 years ago, my ancestors fought a war on Earth. One nation attacked another without warning, killing thousands. The attacked nation responded with such devastating force that the war ended in complete surrender. But the victors did not stop there. They occupied the defeated nation for decades, rebuilding it, teaching it new ways, making sure it could never threaten others again. "That sounds like conquest," a council member said. "It was, but it was also mercy," Junki explained, "because the alternative was to let the defeated nation rebuild in anger and start another war in the future. My ancestors learned that winning a war means nothing if you have to fight it again in 20 years. So they made sure the lesson was permanent." "And that is what your fleet is doing?" Velthar asked. "Yes. We are making the lesson permanent. The swarm will remember this for thousands of years, and because they remember, they will never attack humanity again. Neither will any other species who sees what we are willing to do to defend ourselves." The human fleet reached the final swarm breeding world. This was their home world, the place where the swarm mind had originated millions of years ago. Admiral Tae-jin stood before a communication screen, preparing to address the entire swarm species. "I am Admiral Tae-jin Yoon of the Human Defense Fleet. Your species attacked our colony of New Prosperity. You tried to consume our people, our cities, our future. You failed. Now you will understand why." He paused, letting his words sink into the swarm's collective consciousness. "We could destroy you. Our weapons are more than capable. But we choose not to. Do you know why? Because dead enemies cannot remember, cannot learn, cannot warn others. You are alive because we want you to carry a message to the galaxy. Humanity does not start wars, but we always finish them." The swarm mind responded, its voice carrying what could only be described as fear. "What do you require of us?" "Service," Tae-jin said. "You will help rebuild what you destroyed on New Prosperity. You will use your biological technology to aid human colonies. You will serve humanity for 100 years, and in that time, you will learn what we learned over 10,000 years of our own wars. That survival means respecting those who can defend themselves." The swarm agreed. They had no choice. Communications Officer Bo-Ra Lim sent her final broadcast from the fleet. "This is Officer Bo-Ra Lim, signing off from the swarm home world. The war is over, not because we won a battle, but because we won the future. The galaxy will remember this moment, the moment humanity proved that we are not to be tested." On the council station, Velthar turned to Krieg. "What have we allowed to happen?" Krieg's ancient eyes stared at the display showing human ships returning home. "We have allowed nature to reassert itself. For thousands of years, we have built a galaxy based on civilization and peace. We forgot that peace only exists because someone is willing to enforce it. The humans have reminded us." "Are you saying we need them?" Velthar asked. "I am saying we cannot stop them, so we must accept them. The humans are warriors in a galaxy of civilians. That makes them dangerous. But it also makes them necessary." As the human fleet began their journey home, Admiral Tae-jin looked at the stars ahead. His mission was complete. The swarm was defeated, not destroyed. Conquered, not exterminated. They would serve, they would remember, and they would warn others. Earth Command sent him a message. "Job well done, Admiral. Come home." Tae-jin smiled. Home, where humanity had learned to fight, where they had learned to win, and where they had learned the most important lesson of all, that true victory is not about defeating your enemies, but about making sure you never have to fight them again. The stars watched as humanity returned from war, and the galaxy understood something new. These humans, these young warriors, had shown everyone what real strength looked like, not in conquest, but in certainty, not in cruelty, but in consequence. The age of peaceful expansion was over. The age of humanity had begun. 6 months had passed since the human fleet returned from swarm territory. The galaxy had changed in ways no one expected. Ambassador Hyun-woo Baek stood outside the Galactic Council chambers, preparing for what would be the most important speech of his life. He was a former Marine, a soldier who had fought in 3 conflicts before becoming a diplomat. His gray hair and scarred hands told the story of a life spent in service. Inside the chambers, the council had assembled. Every major species in the galaxy had sent representatives. The room was full of beings made of crystal, energy, flesh, and metal. All of them were here to decide humanity's future. The charges against humanity were serious: excessive use of force, psychological warfare, violation of the surrender protocols, threatening behavior toward a defeated enemy. 7 different species had filed formal complaints, but there were also applications. 7 different species had requested to become human protectorates, asking for Earth's military to defend their territories. 12 more had sent requests for military training, wanting to learn human warfare tactics. The galaxy was divided. Some feared humanity. Some wanted to be protected by humanity. None could ignore humanity. Ambassador Velthar called the session to order. The crystalline being had spent the last 6 months studying human history, trying to understand these strange warriors. Ambassador Hyunwoo Baek of Earth, you stand before this council to answer for your species' actions during and after the swarm conflict. How do you plead to the charges? Hyunwoo stepped forward. He wore his formal diplomatic uniform, but he had kept his military medals visible. He wanted the council to remember what he was. Not guilty, he said simply, of any wrongdoing, but guilty of being effective, guilty of winning, guilty of making sure our enemy never attacks us again. The room erupted in argument. Some council members demanded punishment. Others demanded explanation. War Master Krieg raised his claw for silence. The ancient reptilian had become something like humanity's reluctant supporter over the past months. He had recognized in humans what his own species had once been. "Let him speak," Krieg said. "I want to hear his defense." Hyunwoo nodded his thanks. Then he began. "You have charged us with using excessive force. Let me tell you about force. My homeworld, Earth, has been at war with itself for 10,000 years. We have fought over land, resources, ideas, and pride. We have developed weapons that could destroy our entire planet. We have used those weapons on ourselves." He pulled up a display showing Earth's history. Images of ancient battles, medieval sieges, modern warfare, cities burning, oceans full of warships, skies filled with bombers. We have bombed our own cities. We have starved our own people. We have poisoned our own land. Every terrible thing you saw us do to the swarm, we learned by doing it to ourselves first. Velthar's form shifted to orange, a color indicating discomfort. "That does not justify your actions. It condemns them." "Does it?" Hyunwoo asked. "We learned warfare through suffering. We learned strategy through defeat. We learned mercy through victory. Every lesson cost us blood. Every principle was bought with lives. And we remember all of it." He pointed to the display. "You see savage violence. I see survival. You see cruelty. I see efficiency. You see war crimes. I see the only language that the swarm understood." A council member from the Peaceful Assembly, a species that had not fought a war in 20,000 years, spoke up. "Your species is too dangerous. You must be contained." "Contained," Hyunwoo repeated. "Like you contained the swarm?" "Oh, wait, you did not. You let them consume 40 systems before we stopped them. You let them kill billions because you were too civilized to fight back effectively." The room fell silent. Hyunwoo continued, his voice growing stronger. "You built a galaxy based on the idea that everyone would eventually evolve beyond violence. You forgot that evolution does not work that way. Predators exist. Threats emerge. Peace is not the natural state of the universe. Peace is something you must defend." War Master Krieg nodded slowly. "He speaks truth. My own species learned this lesson. We evolved beyond warfare and became vulnerable. We survived only because no one challenged us. The humans have reminded us that strength matters. High Curator Mestra floated forward, its energy form pulsing with emotion. But at what cost? You turned an entire species into servants. You traumatized their collective consciousness. You built monuments to your victory on their worlds. This is not defense. This is domination. Yes, Hyunwoo agreed. It is, because domination ends wars. Fear prevents wars. Reputation replaces conflict. We dominated the swarm so thoroughly that no other species will dare attack us. Do you know how many human lives that will save? Millions, maybe billions, because we made one example that everyone could see. He pulled up recent galactic statistics. Since our war with the swarm, pirate attacks have decreased by 40% in human-protected space. Territorial disputes involving human allies have dropped to zero. Why? Because everyone knows what happens when you fight humanity. We do not just win. We make sure you remember the loss forever. Velthar's form turned a deep purple. You are too good at war. That makes you dangerous to everyone, not just your enemies. We are good at war because we had no choice, Hyunwoo said. Earth is a hostile planet. Storms, earthquakes, floods, fires. Nature tried to kill us for millions of years. Then we tried to kill each other for thousands of years. We learned to be survivors. We learned to be warriors. Not because we wanted to, but because the alternative was extinction. He turned to face the entire council. You evolved on peaceful worlds. Your species developed in environments that allowed philosophy, art, and civilization. You never had to choose between violence and death. We did, every day for our entire history. And we chose violence, we chose survival, and we chose to be very, very good at it. Ambassador Jun Ki entered the chamber, carrying documents. He handed them to Hyunwoo before taking a seat. These are applications, Hyunwoo announced, from 17 species who want human military protection, from 23 species who want to learn our tactics, from 8 species who want to form military alliances with Earth. The galaxy is voting, and the vote is clear. They would rather have us as allies than as enemies. A council member from the Distant Harmony Collective spoke. What if we refuse? What if we vote to limit human expansion? Hyunwoo smiled, and it was not a friendly expression. You can try. But ask yourself, do you want to be the next example? The humans have shown what we do to enemies. Do you really want to find out what we do to obstacles? The room erupted in angry voices. Some species accused humanity of threatening the council. Others demanded immediate sanctions. War Master Krieg stood, his massive form commanding attention. Silence, all of you. The human ambassador has spoken a difficult truth. We can fear them or we can accept them, but we cannot change them. And frankly, after watching what they did to the swarm, I do not want them as enemies. He turned to Hyunwoo. Your species is being offered a choice. Join the council as full members. Share your military knowledge. Help defend the galaxy. In exchange, you follow our laws and respect our authority. And if we refuse? Hyunwoo asked. Then you remain outside the council. You build your own alliances. You protect your own territories, and eventually we will have to decide whether to fight you or join you. The implications hung in the air. A galaxy divided, human allies on one side, council loyalists on the other, the potential for a war that would make the swarm conflict look small. Hyunwoo considered carefully. This was why Earth had sent him. Not to make threats, but to make the right choice. Humanity will join the council, he said, on one condition. You do not ask us to forget what we know. You do not ask us to fight with one hand tied behind our backs. When threats emerge, you let us do what we do best. You let us win. Velthar consulted with other council members. The debate lasted an hour, but eventually they reached a decision. The Council accepts your terms, Velthar announced. Humanity will be granted 3 seats on the Council. You will be responsible for galactic security training. You will help develop new defense protocols, but you will also follow our laws regarding the treatment of defeated enemies. Agreed, Hyunwoo said. With one addition. We will follow your laws, but we reserve the right to do what is necessary for survival. We will not apologize for being good at war. And we will not let civilized behavior become weakness. The vote was called. It passed, barely. 23 species voted yes. 18 voted no. 4 abstained. Humanity was now part of the Galactic Council. 3 months later, Ambassador Velthar visited Earth for the first time. The crystalline being wanted to understand humanity better, to see where these warriors came from. Hyunwoo gave Velthar a tour of the War Memorial Museum in Seoul. The building was enormous, filled with exhibits covering 10,000 years of human conflict. They walked through rooms showing ancient tribal warfare, medieval castle sieges, modern mechanized war, nuclear weapons, space battles. Every era of human history was represented. You keep all of this? Velthar asked. You remember every war? Every war, Hyunwoo confirmed. Every battle. Every soldier, every civilian who died. We keep it all because forgetting would dishonor them, and because we need to remember what war costs. They stopped at an exhibit showing the Mars Rebellion, a human civil war that had killed millions. The display included personal items from soldiers on both sides, letters home, photographs, final messages. You fought yourselves? Velthar asked. Many times. We are good at war because we practiced on each other. We learned every tactic, every strategy, every horrible trick. And when we finally united, we brought all that knowledge with us. They reached the final exhibit, a memorial wall with a simple inscription. Never again will humanity stand unprepared. Never again will we fail to defend our own. Never again will we forget what survival costs. Velthar stood before the wall for a long time. Finally, the crystalline being spoke. I understand now. You are not cruel warriors. You are survivors who learned to be warriors. There is a difference. Yes, Hyunwoo said. We do not love war. We love what war protects. Our families, our homes, our future. We are willing to do terrible things because the alternative is losing everything we love. Does it ever end? Velthar asked quietly. The fighting? The preparing? The remembering? Hyunwoo thought about the question. Outside the museum, Earth continued its daily life. Cities full of people who would never fight. Children who played without knowing danger. A world at peace for the first time in its history. I do not know, he admitted, but I hope not. The day humanity forgets how to fight is the day we become vulnerable again. The day we stop remembering is the day we start repeating. Better to be warriors who want peace than peaceful people who cannot defend themselves. They left the museum together. Above them, human defense satellites orbited the planet. Human ships patrolled the system. Human soldiers trained in facilities across the world. Earth was at peace, but Earth was ready. The galaxy had learned why the stars feared humanity's might, not because humans were violent, but because they were thorough, not because they loved war, but because they understood it better than anyone else. 20 years later, when the Andromedean Collective invaded from another galaxy, bringing planet-killing weapons and overwhelming force, the Galactic Council held an emergency session. The question was simple. Could humanity teach the galaxy how to fight fast enough? Ambassador Hyunwoo, now elderly but still sharp, stood before the council one more time. You should have asked us to teach you sooner, he said. But yes, we can teach you the quick version, because the alternative is extinction, and humanity has spent 10,000 years learning how to avoid extinction. The training began immediately. Human military advisors spread across the galaxy, teaching tactics, strategy, and the most important lesson, that survival sometimes requires doing terrible things. The Andromedan Collective expected an easy victory. They had conquered 3 galaxies already. They did not expect a galaxy taught by humanity. The war lasted 5 years. The Andromedians lost, and across the galaxy, species that had once feared humanity began to understand. The humans were not monsters. They were teachers. They had learned the hardest lessons so others would not have to. The stars no longer feared humanity's might. They respected it. They depended on it. They were grateful for it. Because in a universe full of dangers, having warriors who remembered how to be civilized was better than having civilized beings who had forgotten how to be warriors. Humanity had shown the galaxy the difference, and the galaxy would never forget.